Does your teen lie? Have you caught them in lies and it's so frustrating? Are they a liar? Stick around today. We're talking about all things teens.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics, nothing is off the table. In today's episodes, we have Heather Frazier, a life coach who specializes with teens and parents. You're going to want to stick around. It's a powerful episode, so if you like it as much as we think you will, smash the subscribe button so you can connect with us on future episodes as well. But first, we're going to do our favorite segment. You guys, today I'm bringing something to the table called Moral Dilemma. Oh. It's the funnest game. I think it's fun. I play it with my friends all the time, and basically you come up with a situation, and then you all respond how you would morally handle that. So they don't know what I'm going to ask them, and you only have a brief, each of you, 20 to 30 seconds to verbally, say what you would do. Okay, so you're at the lake. There are people everywhere. You're camped out on the lake with your family. And next to you, you see another family. You don't know who they are, and you see the mom starting to get really loud and aggressive at her kids. She's shouting, she's yelling. And then you see her get a little more aggressive and start shaking a little 2 or 3 year old. And then she slaps the kid across the face. As the moral dilemma, I want to know what you do. Do you not do anything? Do you approach her? So you have 20 seconds to tell me what you would do and say. We'll start over here.
All right, I'll start. I think I would definitely be upset. And I probably would watch after she hit the kid the first time. And maybe I don't think I would do anything right away, like with that one, but if she did it again, then I would step in and say, excuse me, can I help you with this child? It seems like this is getting really out of control, and let me help you. I think that's how I would respond, but I probably would wait for the second slap, hoping the first slap was done and that she would have realized what she did wrong and she'd cool off.
Love it. Okay.
I tell my kids, look how good of a mom you have. Your mama don't slap you across the face.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. Yeah. I would continue to watch. I wouldn't walk over there immediately. I think I would just play it cool and then see if there's more abuse. I would watch her like a hawk for the rest of the weekend or the rest of the day or whatever, but I wouldn't step in immediately.
Yeah, okay, I love it.
And then I'd pray for them.
Yeah. I would probably do something similar than Teresa. I would wait for a minute, and if she continued to even escalate, just yelling or being really aggressive, I'd walk over and I'd just be like, hey, I'm a mom. I understand, you're frustrated. I feel that way with my kids sometimes too, but it's not okay for you to hit your kid, and if you do it again, I'm gonna have to step in. But can I help you? Can I take the kid? Do you need a break to cool off? Because again, I understand, I'm a mom too.
Yeah.
And I try to relate with her and not accuse her, but I'd be really forward. If I see you do that again,
right?
I'll take further action.
This is the second step. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had balls like that.
Moral dilemma.
I'm a social worker.
Social worker.
I can't sit and watch.
Yeah.
Because one thing learned, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. But if a parent is able to hit in public, that means it's already been happening in the home.
Yes.
And it's probably worse.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially the fact
That's
that
a
there's
good
a
point.
beach full of people.
Right.
And she feels comfortable to just slap him across the face. That's already, it's been at home. And if it's at home, that means at home it's worse than that.
Right.
So my thing would be able to go over there. Of course, I'm not going to accuse her of that. I'm going to be like, let me help. How can I help you? And also let me just educate a little bit. Your child, you may be frustrated, and we've all been there. But hitting is not the action. It's not the way to do it. And so if I can help, let me help you out. And then what can we do? Is there something and maybe sit down and talk. As I hold the baby, let's sit down and talk and get to know a little bit more. Once again, this is the social worker in me. And so it's is it
is she drunk?
Because then you get to know more. He doesn't listen. Okay, then do you have resources? Do you have support? Do you have how can we help? And then make sure that she leaves. Then that child's not gonna go home and get a beat. Because of what happened at the beach.
Yeah.
I love that. Thanks for our moral dilemma. It was so fun. I sat with all my friends at the beach, and all of us had different answers. Someone's like, oh my gosh, that's her business. I would never say something. Another one's like, I'd go charging and be like, don't even touch that kid again. And it was kind of fun to see. My original opinion kind of switched as I heard everyone else's, and that's how I came up with what I would do. But maybe we'll do moral dilemma more often.
I love that.
I love it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
awesome. I'm so excited to have my friend Heather Frazier on set today, and we are talking about all things teens. Heather is a life coach that specializes in relationships with teens and their parents. And today, ladies, we're going to talk about teens and why they're little liars. All things teens and liars. Sound good?
I'm excited.
I definitely could use an episode like this, so I'm excited.
So Heather, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, I am a mother of 4, and I thought that I was an amazing mom when they were little, and they loved me, and then puberty hit, and I realized I had no clue. You get all the books when you're pregnant and have new babies about the milestones, and then puberty comes, and you're like, where did my child go, and why do they hate me?
Yeah.
And sometimes they lie when they're little, but for sure they are going to lie to you when they're teens. And my teenagers lied to me. And it was a really big problem for me for a long time. And because it was a problem, we had bigger problems. So it's a really important dynamic to understand because we actually all lie. Like if I'm like, hey, how are you doing? You're going to say fine.
Yes.
Even though it's like, well, I have this and this and this.
Yeah.
But you feel justified in saying fine because either you don't trust the person to tell them how you really feel, or you don't have time for it. You don't want to bawl your eyes out. It's somebody else's information that you don't feel like you want to share. And so you lie and you feel justified in it. Our kids do the same thing.
Yeah. How many teens do you have? What are their ages?
Yes, so my oldest is 21, and so we have gone the whole gamut. She's the one that brought me to coaching. She brought me to my knees.
She ripped you down.
Always do those firstborns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Broke you.
because we were besties, and then not. And I felt like I had failed, and I knew that she hated me. And then my son came right along in her path, and I could tell that he didn't really like me either, and I didn't like me. I was kind of a bad parent to teenagers. And so I knew I had to figure stuff out. So right now, 21 and then 18. And then I have 2 little teenagers, a 14, and my daughter's going to be 12 soon, my baby.
So you have
going to be
definitely
12.
the full
teenager
spectrum of
stage, yeah.
yeah.
Full, every
Perfect.
single stage, yes.
I love it.
So question, now your 21-year-old, it's all past all of that. Has your relationship now shifted and turned into a positive direction since teenagehood?
It's completely different, which is amazing. We were talking the other day, and I had a coach, or a client that I was coaching, and a lot of times they come to me for child-parent relationships, and we end up talking about all the relationships because it all bleeds together. So we were talking about marriage, and I was explaining to my daughter that her marriage was changing because of what she was implementing from our coaching. She's like, whatever, marriage is 2 people, it's not just one person. They both have to change. And I said, look at us. Did you do anything different? And she was like, because our whole relationship had completely transformed, and it was just me shifting the way I was thinking and feeling. And people respond to that. It's like we do this little dance in our relationships, and if one person stops doing the dance, then the other person's like, what do I do? What's my part now? And it automatically causes people around us to shift.
Yeah.
So what are some of, so why do teen lines? Why do we think is the core reason?
Yes.
Or not even core reason. What are some of the reasons?
There are a few different reasons. One, they feel justified in it, just like when we all lie. I don't actually want to tell you, and I'm okay with my reasoning. Another huge one, especially for our kids, is they don't want to disappoint us. They would rather risk not getting caught than feel shame and guilt and maybe make us upset or sad.
Yeah.
They're trying to manipulate our emotions,
Yeah.
right? And then another one too is shame is a huge driving factor. They know that they did something wrong, and they don't want anybody else to see that they're not perfect.
Yeah.
So, and that's a huge one, like with porn or drugs or sex or any of that kind of stuff. Shame is an emotion that drives us to bury and hide. And so when we're burying and hiding, we lie. And so it's really important that when we uncover things that are really shameful, to meet them in that shame and be like, you know what, we're all kind of curious about sex. Or, yeah, it could be tempting to go and try pot or whatever. Like, I get it. Sometimes we all think or are curious about certain things, want to check things out, and meet them in the shame and tell them that it's okay.
Kind of validate them.
Yeah. I can see why you'd want to Google that. You have all these feelings and curiosity. Let's actually just talk about it. It's okay. Like, what?
Yeah. So what do you think, if you were like coaching a parent on, you've discovered that your kid's been lying about like a big issue and now it's trickled down to they're lying about everything, what's some good advice on how to respond when you just have that feeling your kid's lying? Like you can't really prove it, but you really think they're lying.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The number one thing that you don't want to do is make it about you. Because then we get really emotionally triggered. So it's not that they're disrespecting you. It's not that you have failed. It's not anything about you. That they don't like you, that you deserve to know what's going on in their life.
Okay.
Right? It's about what's going on with them.
Good.
And if you can keep it focused on them, then you're going to naturally know what to say and how to respond to them. Just be like, you know what? I just have this gut feeling that things aren't okay with you. Can we go to lunch? Do you want to talk about it? Or the car is an amazing place to talk because they can't leave.
Yes, I love that.
Right? So when you're driving in the car, and a lot of times it's easier to speak when you don't have to look at each other.
The car's always been the best place for me, even when with my kids being little. The car's always like, we never listen to music, we just talk.
Yeah. So instead of like, tell me, it's like you don't have to even look at each other. Like, how's that going? And how's this? And sometimes it's easier. Kind of like, you know, when you're in bed at night with your spouse or whomever and the lights are out, it's easier to share things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So
Okay.
if you don't have to look at each other, sometimes that's a little easier to cover topics that maybe you're uncomfortable with.
So
I thought about that, but that's very
yeah,
true.
that is very true. So back to like, let's say like another mom has told you like they caught your kid doing pot at her house or something, and so you keep probing, you don't want to accuse them, but they won't give it up and you know they're lying.
Okay.
How can you
Yes.
address
so
that?
first off, you have to decide if it's an issue that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe pot would be something. But if it's, or not.
Or not, we're all different.
Mine is different. It's different because I work in foster care and our kids right now is smoking pot. At this point, it's like, you're like, worst thing you can be doing.
Right.
I'm going to pick my battles.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. You
Yeah.
have to, and it's different for every person, every situation. You can't blanket statement it.
Right.
Yes.
And so you have to decide if it's even an issue that you want to discuss. I had a client and somebody in their neighborhood had caught their kid getting busy in a parking lot.
Oh.
And you just have to decide if that's something that you want to bring up or not. Or just generally, just be like, hey, I know you are dating somebody. Let's just talk about safe sex.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not condoning it, or I am condoning it, and here's some tips. Like, it depends on how you feel and the dynamic that you want to have. But that's the first step. Is this even something that I want to address?
Yeah. Okay.
It's like when your kids are little and they get themselves dressed and you're like,
Right.
do I want to pick this battle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay if they look like that.
So if you did, if let's say it is something that you do take very seriously, and this needs to be addressed. Okay,
Yes.
what's the second
Yeah,
step?
they're not.
So
they're
the
continuing
second
to lie.
step
They will not.
is to not make it about you.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, I feel so disrespected. How could you?
disappointed.
I'm so disappointed in you. I can't trust you anymore. Right. First off, this is another huge thing. Trust, that's an emotion, and we create it with the beliefs that we have about somebody, and it's not something to be earned, and it's something that we can choose to have or not, and that's up to us, and it's okay to not trust your kid.
Yeah.
like you can not trust them and totally love them and connect with them and just know that your boundaries are going to be a little different for a while.
Yeah, I like that.
Not go worst case scenario and freak out.
Yeah.
Because I guess for me, my understanding of it, like I work with teenagers, so me, lies is like, I get manipulated. But I'm used to it by this time.
Yes.
But one thing that I always think is like I see the difference when you have a build a rapport with you're with a teen, like as a parent, like I play as their legal guardian, right? So we have a relationship, and the one that I don't really have a relationship to, you can feel like the difference where they get kind of like they're easy to be like, you're like, Vanessa, yes, I lied. Like, so it's kind of like letting them know, like, you can always come to me. Like, I'm not going to freak out and be like, we're going to the judge, we're going to da-da-da, so it's kind of knowing that they can always come to me to be like, yesterday I think I got like 4 vapes and a bag of weed. Because I didn't even ask for it, but he's like, and I was like, I know, I literally, I keep up with that because he lies all the time. And at this point, it's the same thing. I choose my battles. I'm like, at this point, like foster mom will come in and be like, he lied about this stupid thing. I'm just like,
And?
is he alive?
Yeah.
Is he, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No problem. So it was kind of like when I show up to the home and we were talking because he did do something serious. And he's like, while you're here, I do have some vape upstairs. And I have a bag of weed. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I think it's because we've built a rapport that he felt safe that he can. And I think when our kids, if we don't have a safe space for our kids to come and talk to us, they will lie. Even though you may look at them in the camera, because I watched my little one in the little camera, and I saw him did something, but he looked at me in the face and lied to me, and I'm like, I'm not going to deal with it. Goodbye. But I think you just have to create the safe space for them to feel like they can come to you and have that conversation, especially when it's serious. Like, I would rather know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a
so.
perfect example of you not taking it personally. Being like, I should never be lied to. And because when you can have a non-dramatic reaction, like, okay, go get it, I'll take it. Then they're like, okay, that wasn't as big of a deal. But if you're like, what is going on? Then they're like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
At all costs, I will avoid being caught in lies.
Right. Yeah.
Isn't that what we're scared of in our community, especially when it comes to, I guess, the Utah community, right? There's standard that we have to live by.
Right.
And kids feel like they can't go to their parents and say something because they're afraid of what the reaction is going to be. So I love the idea of, like, the fact that you choose it. Like, oh, okay, if I need to address it, then I'll address it. If we don't need to. But I think the reaction is why they will never come back to you and be like,
No,
last
it's so
time,
Yeah.
she freaked
Terrible.
out.
She
so I'm
lectured
not
me
gonna-
on sex for 50 minutes, and it was the worst conversation
Right,
ever.
right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. Just be like, yeah, I was in a backseat once too. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm guessing a lot of parents watching
not.
this are probably thinking like, ah, crap, I'm that parent who I've already messed it up because I've reacted this and this way. My kids are going to come to me. What advice do you have for people who are like, I messed up. I am not a safe place and I've reacted, but I want to start rebuilding that
Yes.
trust? What, I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Not
That
Bill. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
I love
No,
the
that's a great
questions.
question. So first off, there's no such thing as too late. In neuronormal dynamics, parents want to love and have a connection with their kids, and the kids want the same. And so to go to your kid, I have found the most helpful and honest thing is the very best. To say, listen, I know that we aren't communicating well. This isn't how I want a relationship to be. Like, be honest, all of it. I don't really know what to do, but I know this isn't working. I know I've nagged in the past or lectured in the past, and that doesn't work. I'm trying something different. I'm going to try to not be as dramatic. And I understand that some things you want to keep private, and I'm going to also try to respect that. Like, however you want to say it, but telling the whole truth and your experience. I've never done this. You're my oldest. We're figuring this out together. Or, I've never had this situation with any of your other siblings, like whatever it is. And just be really honest with them that the relationship is important enough that you want to work on it.
You probably ask them as well, what can I do to help you feel safe enough to tell me things like that?
Yeah. What's your perspective? How has this been a problem for you? What really shuts you down that I do?
Yeah.
all of those kind of things to try to meet their needs as well. Yeah.
What do you? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say with my son, the biggest thing to get him to stop talking is I would cut him off. Because I wanted him to hear me and understand me. And so I would talk right out, and then he would leave. And I had to learn to shut up and let him finish. And it's a really great thing also to mirror back so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's this, this, and this. Do I have it all? Am I missing anything? And then go from there.
So what about, I mean, all of this sounds good, but sometimes there's consequences that need to happen.
For sure.
So how do you approach that in a way, I mean, I guess it's just the healthiest way to do it without destroying the relationship part, you know? I mean, it seems like, I know for me, I have a lot of fear when it comes to disciplining my teenager because I was a very rebellious teenager. I had parents, my stepdad and, you know, my mom really kind of took the back seat. My stepdad was, you know, all of the things that you're talking about of breaking the rules, like he was not a good person to have a relationship with. So when I think of discipline and teenager, I just get a fearful reaction because I know what happened with me. So then my default is actually the opposite. I actually need to like step it up.
To be really
and, like,
permissive.
Yeah, and not be so permissive
Yes.
about things or pretend like I don't know. And so like the other day I told my son, he was lying to me, and it really wasn't about a big deal. And my initial reaction was to just like not say anything. And I'm like, no, he can't think that I'm just this stupid person that would just believe that. So I just let him know, hey, listen, I'm working on myself. You know, I'm working on trying, you know, I know that you just lied about that. I know that this and this, and hey, I love you anyway. Please don't lie to me. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation.
That's perfect.
awesome.
You killed
Right?
it.
But that wasn't something that really needed like a consequence,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what about these situations where there is, and you've got parents like me who are like, how do I discipline him? I don't want him to hate me.
Yeah,
you know, I don't want to
That's
have
your
our relationship
problem.
destroyed, right?
Because it's about you.
Because I'm making it about me.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah.
You just said it. You just
Brittany
did it.
nailed it.
I know, but what do I do?
But I think the
She's like, help me think.
I know
but
the
I think,
problem,
like,
but I don't
the
know how to
biggest
solve
thing when
it.
it comes to consequence, I think like for me, like with my kids, like one of mine is really bad with lying. Like so it's already set up what the rules of the house is, right? This is what's gonna happen if it's serious, like the serious stuff, right?
Sure.
This is the consequence. So, and that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, there's a moment where I'm just like, I never want to like get mad at my kids when I'm like angry.
Yeah.
So when I see he does that thing that just makes me mad, I'm like, I have to like, let me compose myself.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like the way that I do it, and you can tell me if it's different. But like, I'm always like, you know what? You lied to me, and that was not okay. And we have rule about this house that you did this. So this is what's gonna happen because you do it. But I explain to him why it's a problem. It's not because I'm like the safety wise of it. This is for you. Like if you don't do the safety, like you can hurt yourself or you can hurt somebody else. And so I just want you to make sure that you understand, like you can't do that. And so because you went against that, this is what, like, you know, like the consequence. I want you to kind of like, there's a consequence because I'm not, like you said, I don't know. I feel like there has to be a consequence because I can just be like, well, let's go. So I just let them understand there's a safety aspect, like what he did, like he like starting to throw rocks like in the, like as people go by, right? And then he lies about it. And I'm like, the Ring camera, I can see you throwing rocks. And the community we live in is old people. And I'm like, you are going to like hurt somebody. So it's kind of like I have to explain to him why we don't do it. So then he has understanding. And then this is also why there's a consequence in it because you're continuously doing it.
And
you know?
your consequence is about what he did, not about him lying about it.
Yes, it's not about the lie. It's
Right,
like
it's about
this
what he
is-
did.
And then, but then explaining to him like, this is why we don't do this, you know. So then he can understand like, it's not just because I don't want to do it. Like, throw rocks,
Right.
but you're gonna
Yeah.
hurt somebody, you know.
But I like this like dynamic because I like that struck me too. Like I don't want my kids to hate me, and then I'm like, oh crap, I made it about me. But when you're discussing these things, is it even worth bringing up or giving them a consequence for lying, or should we focus just on the consequence for what they did that they tried to cover up?
I guess that's my thing.
So you can blanket statement it.
Right. Yeah.
But and it's specific to whatever. If you're seeing habitual lying, you can. It's good to have rules and consequences ahead of time. So like if you do this, this is the consequence. If you lie about it, there's an added consequence or whatever feels good to you. And Depending on the age and maturity of your child, I really suggest discussing this with them and helping them. A great way to do this is, okay, so if you were the parent in this situation and, you know, I was your child or your child was doing what you're doing, how would you handle this, right? Because we know that this isn't safe or that this is disrespectful or whatever. These are the house rules that we're agreeing upon. What do you think is wise and prudent in this situation? And getting that kind of hammered down ahead of time. And that's a great question. If you don't ahead of time, also you can sit down in the heat of the moment or when you're cooled down. Okay, so let's reverse roles. How do you think I should handle this? Because I really don't know what to do.
Yeah, my
Oh,
5-year-old
I like
said,
that.
you know what Nehemiah said? He says, I'm not leaving your house and I'm not having kids.
She's like, that's not going to apply to me, Mom, because I'm never going to be a mom.
Can I just stay here
What a
and,
clever
and I
child.
don't have kids? And I'm like,
No. No.
let's talk about it later, okay?
You gotta figure it out.
I like that, though.
I do like that.
But consequences and rules are not actually to control your child. And they're not to control if they
But I like
you or
control.
not.
Right.
I know.
It's supposed to be to teach, right? Isn't that the word for discipline?
Yes.
Discipline means to teach.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the irony is that people who like control try to get it out of their child, and that's the least amount of control you can have in the situation. So we actually just want to control ourselves and our end of the experience. So I want to be a good parent, and so this is how I believe good parenting should look. We have a couple house rules.
And that's
I
not
don't make
about
it
how
about-
I like how you said this is how good parenting should look, and it's not ever. It doesn't include this is how my children should behave.
No,
Yes.
that's where I went wrong. That's why I thought I had failed as a mom, because my children weren't behaving how I wanted them. Because you're holding your sweet baby right now. How many times have you dreamt of what her life would look like?
Lots.
Yeah, none of it's gonna happen. No.
Yeah.
You're gonna be an astronaut.
But we do. We fantasize about, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we have it so set in stone and then they deviate from what we pictured, it can be really hard. And we think, I screwed up. And then that resonates with them. And then they know that they're a disappointment, so they lie to us about what they're doing in their life.
So true.
Yeah, and if you look at it, I think the expectation of like raising kids in general, like I think there's this expectation, right? Like how, like you said, how it's supposed to look, right? How your
Yeah.
kid's supposed to behave. Like when you go to your in-laws or somebody, like your kids are supposed to be this, you know, of course
Yeah.
you want them to have respect and be respectful of things, but there's this idea of like, this is how parenting should look like, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that the kids do something that unexpected, and it's like right now I have a case that I work with, the girl's 14 and she's pregnant, right? That's not something a parent, you know, ever imagined for their kids. But for the life of me, these parents, the way they handled it was just so brilliant, right? They could have gone off and disowned, because we've seen that, but it was just kind of like a teaching moment, an understanding moment. Like, you know, it didn't go how we planned it to be, but now, like you said, discipline is teaching. So now I can teach her. How can we help her going forward into this whole process? Because if you go angry and lose it, you're about to lose this child and lose the opportunity to teach that child.
Well, and I think the
Right?
pregnancy alone is already a pretty
A
natural
teaching
consequence.
moment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
She's 14. Yeah.
As they get older, that is the case. They, you know, a little kid hits somebody on the playground, they go in timeout. But your kid stays up till 2 a.m., well, they're going to feel like trash the next day when they have to get up for school. Natural consequence. What are you going to do about it? Just be like, yeah, dude.
That's what happens when
What
you
do
go
you
to bed
think would
late.
happen?
Do you agree with the method of like, you know, like when, kind of like that gratification of like, oh, you know, they're lying to like, we're going to talk about this, right? And then, you know, like in their boots, they're like, dreading, like, you know what I mean? Like, is that like, can we just do that? Like, because I do it all the time. It's like,
Scare them.
yeah, like intimidation, fear.
oh, is that that? I do it.
If it works, no. It just depends what your ultimate goal is.
Okay.
Right?
Scare the
Are
shit
you
out of your
manipulating
kid.
them, Vanessa?
Yeah.
I do the same thing, but now I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh, I know. I was absolutely parented by fear, so now I need to make sure I don't do
Yeah,
that.
we're in therapy for that. No.
Yes.
But yeah, so it depends on what your goal is and how you want. We have to look ahead. And that's what I was doing too, especially with my son. I'm like, okay, he hates me. He won't even let me hug him. Like, is this the path? Like, in 5 years, he's going to move out and be like, screw you, lady. I'm never coming home. Like, is that what I want? No. So how can I adjust this?
Yeah.
And so you have to look down the road of where you're headed and tweak things here and there. And again, our kids want our love. And we want to give it to them. It's the expectation that they have of us and that we have of them where we get complicated. Yeah. And so to set out rules, coming back to your question, Teresa, we want to set out rules so that we know we're doing our very best. Like you said, this is for your safety and the safety of others. And here's the consequence because of that. And you did great by not making it dramatic. Again,
I don't do dramatic.
like, I love you, I care about you, I want what's best for you, and so this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, bummer, and I hope you think it through better next time, period.
I like that.
I like that.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, my job as your mom is to teach you. And I know that you're mad at me right now and you don't like what I'm doing, but I wouldn't be a good mom if I didn't take this opportunity to teach you.
Yeah, exactly. When we're super permissive and we just let our kids do whatever because we fear their disapproval, they're going to be educated elsewhere. And it's not going to be with unconditional love. It's going to be the judicial system. They're going to lose jobs. They're going to have marital issues if they just think they rule the world. And so it really is our job to have our kids not like us sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
that's what my daughter's going to be 14 in in 2 months. And that's why I've been using the job because she wants a job so bad. I'm like, these are things that you need to learn at home because you're going to get a job and then you're going to get fired on the first day because you had this attitude or you had this or that. I'm like, this is the time to learn it now before there's a job at stake where you could get fired. Like, learn it at home.
And I think the best example is us as parents, right? I think, like you said, if you're honest with your kids, like, I think building that relationship, like, I think that I always look at it like this. I said, you know, what you want your kids to be, you have to model it. Because sometimes, like, you know, because like always, we talk about this all the time, it starts in the home, right?
It
They
does.
see it, and then if you're going to be like, oh, you lied. And I remember one time, like, my kids will ask me for something. I'm like, okay, I'll get it tomorrow. And I don't go to Walmart tomorrow. And they're like, you lied. And I'm just like, okay, well, this is different. But I definitely
I tried
understand.
my best.
Exactly. I understand where you're coming from. But I think it's just modeling it where it's like, because like you say, you send these kids out there. We have a generation, like, kids are really disrespectful and rude. And they don't see any problem with it. And I was at the store, and this guy was, like, yelling because he didn't get what he wants. Like, he was yelling, and the son was sitting right there. And he's watching his dad being, like, so rude and disrespectful. I'm like, you don't think he's going to do the same thing after just watching you do that for over a little something so little? Like, so we have to model it at home.
Yeah.
Because I've seen parents sometimes that will literally straight lie to their kids all the time to get away with things. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Piggybacking off of that, we've talked about this before in the episode, but like apologizing to your kids, I think that's a good model that can translate into them not lying.
That's
by just being like,
exactly-
I'm so
yeah.
sorry, like
I
mom
have
made a
been
mistake.
overreacting.
I overreacted.
Owning it.
That
Yeah.
consequence was actually like not conducive to how you behaved. I'm sorry, will you forgive me? So then when they are like, oh crap, I did drugs or I had sex, and you've modeled like being like, I was wrong. This is a safe place for me to like apologize.
You said that, Heather, when you mentioned about, I don't know what to do. Like, tell
That's
me,
honest
like,
sometimes.
just being
like,
so honest
well,
with
I've
them.
never imagined myself in this situation, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you were talking, I was just thinking, yes, and that doesn't mean we have to be perfect all the time, because we're all fallible.
Yeah.
And so when we do something to own it, to teach our children how to own our own crap.
They're going to start owning their stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
like, you know what? That totally, I'm tired and hangry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But they
And-
also see you as a parent making mistakes.
It's
and
normal. Yeah.
like I think back, and I like always refer to like my parents, and they watch the show. I love you so much. You did the best you could. You were great. But like I don't remember like seeing my mom ever make a mistake. Like no one ever apologized to me. No one ever like like my mom was perfect, and now that I'm a grown adult, I see her imperfections, I see mine, I see everything, and I just want my kids to know, like, I am not perfect. And so when you feel like you're not perfect, like, I hope you can come to me because we can relate on that. Like, we're humans and we make mistakes.
Yeah, I think that as adults, we feel like we have to hide our imperfections with people, but none of us like those perfect people.
Yeah, nobody likes the perfect people.
I
anyway.
had that
It's not
conversation the other day with,
Yeah.
with one of my other kids. She's like, I was like, oh my gosh, you have great teeth, because I pick her up from the dentist. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got great teeth and you have great hair. She's like, yeah, but everything else is not perfect. And I'm just like, who said we have to be
Welcome
perfect?
to the human
Exactly. I'm like,
experience.
are you kidding me? She's like,
Yeah.
well, there's people that are perfect. There's a thing. I'm like, there is no
That's
such
not
thing.
perfect.
Exactly.
Instagram
I said,
filter.
I was like, there's no such thing as perfect. And I think that's good to say, because like, that's what kids, I think your host posted one time, like, he's like, we have a routine, like, and so we always tell kids, clean your room. And then he was like, hey, Malka, you need to go clean your room. And when kids are mouth are very quick, and I think they just got it from us, because we at our house, we just like, our house is different. Like, you walk in our house, it's a different feel. We allow our kids to do what, like, you know, we allow our kids to be their kids in the home. Like, this is their home. Like, they know their limit and boundary. It's like, Malka, clean your home, house, like, clean your room. And he's like, have you seen your room? And we were like, oh, and I was like, it's my room too, but he said it to your host, and I was like, oh, yeah, like, you know, because it's like we have to model, like, how, you know, of course, like, but they need to understand to him, it's just like we have to model it too, because her room will have laundry everywhere, you know, and then he's probably thinking like, my room is not that bad, and you guys' room is a mess, and you're telling me to clean my room? Like, come on.
My kids know enough of my coaching stuff. They'll be like, "Mom," psh. And I'm like, I know, I'm human.
I know,
Exactly. You busted me. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Kids have a great BS meter.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. They call you out on your
it.
crap.
Yeah.
And it's
They read to
amazing
it.
because then you can just be like, yeah.
And I think that's come to what the perfection. Like, yeah, we're not perfect. Like,
No.
And the thing is, we have to teach Malka and I. It's like, yeah, we are your age at one time. We're just trying to teach you, like, responsibility, like, to do it. Like, our room may be messy, and yes, we need to clean it, but we're just trying to help you, kind of, like, you have chores, you have responsibility. You know, that's, you know, kind of like the same thing. Like, we're not perfect either. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
well,
have
and
to
they
come.
hear us lying on the phone, too. We're talking to somebody, we're like, oh, da, da,
Yep.
da, da. And it's like, because I don't want to share right now or whatever
Right.
it is.
Or I can't because
they
I've got
know.
this thing.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want my hair.
My kids
Yeah.
said that. I was on
Can't
the
go.
phone. I was like, they invited me to something. I was like, yeah, like the kids. Like, I just in some conversation. I was like, we're fine. You can go. And I'm like,
They're sick. We're not sick. You're sick today. Mommy's lying. We're all going to be on the lying train today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just own it. You know what? I lied.
I had to lie.
Yeah.
Mommy doesn't want to leave the house. We lied today.
Yeah.
No, that's a bad example.
I've actually lied in front of the kids, and I've known it, and I've actually like talked to them and said, hey, I know that you guys just witnessed me lie about this thing, and I'm going to explain to you why I did it. and there's times where I'm like, and I'm going to let you know right now, it was straight up wrong, and I'm an awful
owning
simple
it.
person. What can I say? And then there was other times where I'm like,
Going to
and
hell.
this is the situation where, you know what, sometimes it's actually better to lie in this situation, and I'm okay with it. You
Like
know,
if
and
your mom
I'm
asks if
I'll
she looks
teach
fat.
you. Yeah, exactly. You
Oh, they
never
don't lie-
say
they don't lie
yes.
about
That's
that.
never.
They're very
Those types
honest
of
about
things,
that one.
right?
Yeah.
I saw your thing you posted, and it really got me. I was laying on the bed, and your man was like, your belly still look like there's a baby in it. And I was like, oh.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
I know.
That's their favorite line, right?
And sometimes people use that as an excuse to be
Right.
rude.
And that's so that's the conversation I had
Yes.
with my one of my kids was because to him it's like I'm just being honest. It's okay. So this is where sometimes being respectful actually is kind of lying, but you know sometimes it's just withholding the truth but not telling a lie. So there's an art, right, of somehow like
Again, we
There's
all
an art
do
to
it.
lying. There is an art to
There's
lying.
spinning a lie.
Yeah.
But we all do it when we like the reasoning.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
I'm perfectly okay with it. I mean, I don't think that you should straight up tell somebody, you know, I don't know, whatever. Like whatever
Yeah.
your opinion is, like just keep your mouth shut.
Well,
You're
and
not,
is that
you're not lying,
even?
you're just not telling the truth.
I'm not
Yeah.
asking you if I look good anymore.
Oh no.
But that's a great point. Like, okay, so there's lies like, did you vape? Do I need to That's a yes or no. There's
Yeah.
truth in that.
Yeah.
But like, do I look fat in these jeans? That's opinion.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
true.
And you can get every single opinion
That's a
under
great
the
clarification.
sun.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
clarification.
That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Are you on board with the honest is the best policy? Do we all, I feel like that's.
Yeah.
We know people are
9
gonna lie.
times out
but-
of 10, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be the 1%
you
where
lie.
you like your reason, and it's the same with your kid. And it doesn't mean, like, let's say they have a boyfriend or girlfriend and you don't know about it, or maybe they're, thinking that they have same gender attraction or whatever, and they're not ready to share.
Yeah.
And so they're going to lie about that until they feel
are ready to
comfortable
share.
and ready to share.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we have to go through their phone. It doesn't mean we have to ask them prying questions.
Or ground them until they tell us.
It's all,
Yeah.
That's like
it's-
straight control.
I know
right?
that's yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
It's just wanting control. And when parents want control of their teen, teens will either do one of two things. They'll submit and fold and lose themselves to try and win your approval, which you're setting them up for like unhealthy marriage habits
Perfectionism.
and work habits and perfectionistic tendencies and not trusting themselves. Or they completely rebel
Yep. The fight back.
and say, screw you, I'm going to go do all the things because you're so controlling.
And I
that
think
was
the
you.
thing we have to.
That's how I was as a teenager. Most part I was more rebellious, and then as I became an adult, I switched to a codependency. Is kind of where I
Yeah.
went.
think most
I was
parts
the
are-
first teen you talked about.
Yeah.
I would cave and submit, and
Yes, dude.
How
I
can I
struggled
please
a lot.
you? I
in
want to
my-
win your approval.
Yeah,
I
like
need to be the
relationship
person
because
that's
of that.
lovable for you.
I would betray myself at every level to make sure my parents approved of me.
Yeah.
And I've done that in relationships moving forward.
and
have
it doesn't serve.
Yeah, and we have to make sure that I think one thing that I'm learning working with teenagers, like, we have to let this kid, the stage of life they go to, we have to kind of start giving them the freedom to know that they have privacy. That they, like, I think we have to come out of the mindset, because a lot of parents that I work with, it's like, I'm the parents, I pay the bills.
They need
this
to
is the
listen to
thing.
me.
They need to listen to me. This is what
It's
it is.
about them.
It's exactly, and so they make it all about
You're
them.
so
Instead,
good
like,
at that.
of course, I know she loves
Yeah.
that part. I think it's okay to like allow your kids to grow, and I think because you have teach them, and it's to fall into what you've teach them, right? Like the parenting, and trust them. Like, I hate like when foster moms like, should we check their phone? I'm like, no, I do not check their phone. Allow them that time to talk to you, unless there's something like they're doing that's like the pornography and stuff like that, and you put limit on there.
Or you're on suicide
On
watch
suicide
or
watch,
something
stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think you have to give them this step to allow them the freedom to come to you, and give them like you growing, because the minute they leave your house, and like my kids, they leave 21, 18, that's where we see the rebellious of it all. They're like, I haven't been able to do this and that. Like, now I'm
Right.
They're
out
finally
there
free.
for free.
Because there was
you
no
know?
teaching.
Exactly.
The teaching
doesn't
is
even have
preparing
to
them for adulthood.
Yeah, it doesn't even
Yes.
have to wait till they're 18 or 21.
A
I
lot of the
remember,
time.
it just, as soon as they would go to an activity where parents weren't around, they would be super rebellious, or
Yeah.
they would change clothes in the car as soon as their parents
Yeah.
were looking at just
Yeah.
like any opportunity that they weren't being watched.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that was the kind of rebellious child that I was.
That you
Like
were?
when I was being watched, I followed it, but as soon as their eyes were off me, that's when I was doing.
Gotcha.
There's one thing your host always say
Yeah.
with our kids that I think to kind of end with my part, like he always says, Bonners always tell the truth. So when our kids, like the little small lies, like it's just like if the kid's like, well, somebody Nehemiah lie about this, it's like we look at Nehemiah, we're like, Bonners always tell the truth, you know? And then I think sometimes like he's like, oh, okay. So that's been kind of like a thing that we said to our kids, because like at one point, like our kids were lying all the time. Like, I know, I did get it from
Yeah.
me because I lied a lot sometimes.
Well, that's what I want to
young.
ask also. Well, finish what you're
Those
going
are
to say.
that's a stage of development, of
Yeah.
brain development.
Yeah.
And so it actually developmentally, your kids are going to go through phases of lying. And obviously it's to varying degrees. Some are going to do it more than others. But it's actually normal brain development.
yeah,
They want to
yeah.
see how much they can get away with. And they want to test boundaries. And
Oh, yeah.
they do it in other ways too. Like when I was a teenager, I stood on the top of a car going 60 miles per hour and car surfed.
Oh.
And I would jump off bridges and like you
Wow.
you do limit that I was dumb.
Child. I like it.
But you test limits
Robin's like,
to
"You were
see
cool."
how much you
like-
can get away with.
Right. I'm gonna see
Yeah.
and say George
Yeah.
car surfing.
Okay,
I know.
What about lying that it gets to the point where it's like, okay, like this person's got a problem, you know? Like
yeah.
talking about
Like
pathological
habitual
lying or
pathological,
lying to hurt people, to
Yes.
manipulate. It's not about protecting them. It's actually like
to
That's
hurt.
like hurtful.
But
That
I
was,
think you'll see
you know,
pattern though. I feel like when you have kids, and I see it too, like to the system, like when kids are pathological liar and they lie to hurt people, there's other behaviors that come with it.
Like
you know
what?
what I mean?
Yes.
Like so.
It's not just one.
Yeah,
thing.
like they don't listen. They're defiant. Like it's not just like about like they're defiant. They never listen to what they need to do. They don't follow the rules. Like, you know, they act out. So there's other things that fall. Like if you have a kid, like I said, developmental that just to lie, it's just they're really trying to test you out. So that's why sometimes it's like we always say, "Why don't always tell the truth?" Because it's like, but when it's like you're saying hurting somebody, you'll see other things that's like, oh yeah, their kid, you need to watch that kid.
And that's when you like get into like therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could be
then
like
you
a
figure-
personality
yes.
disorder or something
Yeah,
going on
like
for sure.
Yeah.
some kind of ODD, like
Yeah.
stuff like that comes with it.
Yeah, so this, again, it's a whole spectrum, right? You have like the sociopaths and psychopaths, which is now antisocial disorder is what it's called. And for kids, it's oppositional
Defiant disorder.
defiant disorder. Yeah. And so you have to approach it with, this isn't for me to fix. I'm here to mentor and guide and teach, and they get to choose the life that they're going to create for themselves. And when you can let go of, I have to fix this isn't okay, then you can show up a lot better with rules and consequences and unconditional love and how you feel good as a parent in that situation.
That's perfect.
I love that.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like we should just end on that beautiful
Yeah,
note.
I think
That
it's
was
a great
beautiful
place.
note.
Heather,
Yeah.
this was an incredible conversation.
Yeah.
Like we
Thank you.
mentioned, you
I
guys,
loved it.
Heather is a coach specifically to help us parents learn how to engage in healthy relationships with their teens. So, Heather, where can we find you?
Yes, my website's heatherfrazier.com, super easy. And then on Instagram, Heather Frazier Coaching, and Frazier is with a Z-I in the middle. And I am doing 2 fall groups. So I usually work out with clients one-on-one, but I just wrapped up a group that goes the academic school year for parents of seniors, and it was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm going to do 2 this coming fall because I loved it so much. So the senior year has a lot of nuance that's
Yeah.
specific. We're applying to
Senioritis.
colleges. We're deciding what comes next.
Yeah.
We're having to cut apron strings, and maybe that's good or bad. Some parents are like, I don't want my baby to leave, and others are like, can they be gone already?
Parents are probably like, I have to teach them everything I can before they leave.
I
like,
hear
trying
that
to
all the
shove
time.
Them full of
Like their
information.
kid is going to die, and they have to shove everything in, and then they're done.
Right.
It's like, no. No. My 21-year-old still comes back and is like, okay, so what about this?
The teaching doesn't end after they leave. Like
It doesn't
If the
end.
relationship is good, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
continue to teach them.
Yeah, but that I want to help parents navigate that last tricky year and make it the very best year.
Love that.
So that they can have that foundational, really strong relationship before their child launches. So when they go to frat parties, when they have a significant other, they have that connection to have open conversations with the unconditional love. And so I'm really excited about that group. And there's only 10 spots.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And then another group that I'm doing is for junior high. So the middle school, junior high age,
That's us.
it throws you for a loop.
Yes.
Like one day you're
just skip it.
sweet, snuggly baby, and then the next day you're like, who
It's
is
a
this
roller
child
coaster.
in my house
Yeah.
that's got the claws and is hissing backed up into the corner? You know what I mean?
No, like
Wow, they
that.
do growl.
That
at
is
you.
like a legitimate. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah.
I think I will growl. I'm
Like,
like,
it is. You're like, wait,
where did that
what
come from?
happened?
Pimples and temper tantrums all together. Like,
Yeah.
how did that
Yes,
happen?
and periods and all of it.
They love you,
And
but
so
they hate you.
yes, and so I'm doing a group. Again, there's only 10 spots, and it's for that 12 to 14 age that just, they come home crying because their friends are so mean to them. And they, like my daughter was like, Mom, all the boys laugh because the locker next to me is 69. What's the joke? Right? So they're introduced to sex and drugs and things that maybe they haven't been before and how to navigate that. Like, it is tricky.
It is.
And so, yeah, these 2 age groups, I really want to support the parents. And so it runs the whole academic school year.
I love that.
Yeah, and we meet twice a month. And
Wonderful.
last year was magical, and I know that this year is going to be super great. So I'm excited to add another group. And that is there's links in my bio on Instagram, and then also at the top of my website, there's a big banner button where you
amazing.
can
And we'll
join
make
the
sure
group.
and put that in the description box below if you're watching this
Show
on
notes.
YouTube, and then the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast, so that you get easy access to this
Yeah.
group.
Yes. Well, Heather, thank you so much.
Yes, it was
Thank you guys
Seriously,
so
it was
much.
a
It's
pleasure
been
having
so
you.
much fun. You
Thanks
ladies
so
are
much.
amazing.
I'm always going to remember, don't make it about you.
Yeah. yeah.
Control,
That
Brittany,
is human
control.
nature in every situation, not just teens lying. Like, now you're going to
Anything.
notice it. You're like talking to your sister and you're like, or
Making it about you.
yeah.
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 Don't make it about you. All right, that's a wrap for this episode of the Brave Talk Show. If you are watching us on YouTube, there are more episodes you will love on that window to the right, and we will see you on the other side. Bye.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl,